can think of no better message to send to our young people. I want you to remember that in this country, plenty of folks, including me and my husband, we started out with very little. But with a lot of hard work and a good education, anything is possible, even becoming president. That's what the American dream is all about.
First childhood memory of my sister is her being just a baby, that cute little chubby face that she had.
Michelle was more mature than her age from a very early age.
Straight A's like nobody I've ever seen.
She was gonna do something. She was gonna be the best at it. When she went to visit Craig at Princeton, she came home and said, I'm going to Princeton. She did that, huh? Let's go on to the next thing.
You were loyal. At the age of 25, you have an assistant. You wear an Armani suit and sign up for a subscription wine service and go to step aerobics after work. Because you can, you buy yourself a sod. A senior partner asks if you'll mentor an incoming summer associate, some hotshot law student. Like you, he's black and from Harvard. Other than that, you know nothing, just the name, and it's an honor. Barack Obama was late on day one.
I was late, so it's not clear what made the best impression.
So he's getting out of the car, and I remember Mom, you said, ooh, he's tall. And then my dad said, too bad it won't last.
Yeah, apparently she'd gone through some boyfriends. Michelle Robinson was a tough customer. I viewed it as a challenge. It's like Excalibur, you know, only one person can remove the sword from the stone. It was me.
She didn't like it. And I was a little surprised when she became what she became.
Probably suspected that this might be a phase.
Please join me in welcoming my little sister and our nation's next First Lady, Michelle Obama.
Here is where I felt like our family got launched out of a cannon and into some strange underwater universe. I was getting worn out, not physically, but emotionally. The punches hurt, even if I understood that they had little to do with who I really was as a person. I was female, black, and strong, which to certain people translated only to angry. It was as if there was some cartoon version of me out there wreaking havoc. A woman I kept hearing about, but didn't know. A too tall, too forceful, ready to emasculate Godzilla of a political wife named Michelle Obama. We'd taken two young girls who hadn't chosen this life, and without thinking it through, we fed them into the mall.
I remember the night in Chicago. People were just so happy and just so excited, and it was just interesting because Mom was very calm, and I think seeing other people cry and scream in a way that highlighted truly how insane it wasn't that just happened.
We'd leaped, and now, one way or another, we'd land. I lived in the White House.
I think people recognized pretty quickly that she wasn't my wife. She was Michelle with her own message, her own power, her own gifts.
We're determined to finally take on one of the most serious threats to their future, and that's the epidemic of childhood obesity in America today. We'd focused ourselves on doing more than trending for a few hours on Twitter, and we had results. 45 million kids were eating healthier breakfasts and lunches. 11 million students were getting 60 minutes of physical activity every day. We'd helped persuade businesses to hire or train more than 1.5 million veterans and military spouses.
people would send her a pretty clear message that, no, we actually might like you more than the guy you're married to, so you keep on talking.
When someone is cruel or acts like a bully, you don't stoop to their level. No, our motto is, when they go low, we go high.
We were the 44th first family and only the 11th family to spend 2 full terms in the White House. We were and would always be the first Black woman.
When I look out at all of you, I see myself. Your story is my story.
There's no one in this world who isn't allowed or isn't worthy of having the kind of life she's had.
I want our young people to know that they matter. Lead by example with hope. Never fear.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
So don't be afraid. Be focused. Be determined. Be hopeful. Be empowered. And know that I will be with you, rooting for you and working to support you for the rest of my life. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Michelle Obama. You were missed. You have any idea? Look. I miss us too. No, what was funny is backstage I said to Michelle, they're still walking around. She goes, Gayle, it's atmosphere. It'll be all right. It's okay. I said, I don't know. It doesn't matter where you flew from. Chances are there were more Black people on your flight than any other time. So we showed up. So I flew in from New York, and the flight attendant said to me, do all of you guys know each other? Yeah, right. I said, no. This is called Flying While Black, right. When you're going to Essence and you're going to see Michelle Obama. That's what this is. There was such camaraderie on the plane. It's a great spirit. But I just want to touch briefly about the book, Becoming. How many have read Becoming? Yes, you have. Can I just say this, guys? It's in striking distance of 12 million, the best-selling memoir of all time, 31 cities, 8 countries, sold everywhere, translated into how many languages?
Oh, over 40 languages.
Over 40 languages.
Yeah.
People all over the world are reading your book. So you just wrapped up the tour. It was Mother's Day weekend, I remember that, in Atlanta and then Nashville. What did you learn while you were on the tour about yourself, and what did you learn about people that you met that stood out to you?
Well, first of all, I learned that I could work really hard if I hadn't figured that out over 8 years. But what I learned was that people are really hungry for stories, and stories about people who look and feel like them. And one of the things I want crowds to understand is that wherever I've gone, and I've toured this book all over the world, whether it's in Copenhagen or Paris or London, people have found and recognized themselves in the story of this little Black girl who grew up on the south side of Chicago. So what it reminds me is that our stories as Black people and as Black women have power. You know, the only thing is we don't often get to see ourselves, we don't hear ourselves because we don't get to control the narrative. And I knew that it was important in writing Becoming that I had to sit with the fact that it is understanding how rare it is that a black woman, a modern day woman, gets an opportunity to tell her own story in a way that's going to be read by millions. And that shouldn't be an uncommon thing, but I think because we don't see it often, it's a pleasant shock to the system.
And you hit it when you said it was really relatable, whether you're in Stockholm, whether you're in France, whether you're in London. Everybody said they could relate to something in your book. The thing they can't relate to, though, is being First Lady.
Yeah.
Certainly the first
That's
black
different.
First Lady.
Yeah.
And I've read the book 3 times. And what struck me, one of my favorite chapters and one of the hardest for you to write was chapter 17, page 250. Because as you alluded to in the tape, the punches really hurt.
Yeah.
The criticism really hurt. And I'm wondering how you got through, because it was vicious, it was mean, it was unkind.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you got through the negativity without bringing it to your knees. How you got through it?
Well, it was important for me to tell that part of my story because I know there are a lot of young kids out there who see me and Barack now, right? They see us as the former first. They see us when we were walking out of the White House, but they don't remember how many punches we took to get there. So now I'm Michelle Obama and beloved, but for a minute there, I was an angry black woman who was emasculating her husband, who was somebody to be feared, because that was part of the political game, was that as I got more popular and started being more of an asset to my husband, it was interesting that that's when people of all sides, and I stopped to say people from all sides, Democrats and Republicans, tried to take me out by the knees. And the best way to do it was to focus on the one thing they knew people were afraid of, was the strength of a black woman. So they turned that into a caricature.
You write about, you said campaigning is like having your soul x-rayed every day and turned inside out. So on those really dark days, I am curious about how you didn't just crumble, why you kept on going, even sometimes when you felt you might not have been supported inside the campaign as well.
Well, there were, as I write in the book, I was at a point where I thought, well, if I'm hurting Barack's campaign, I just need to get off the road. You know, I was like, I'm not in this to not help him.
But he never felt that.
Oh no, he never felt
that.
Well, that was the beauty of Barack. Barack knew how to take punches. Look, we grew up in Chicago politics, y'all. So, you know, Chicago politics is rough and tumble, but I had never been at the center of it. So at no point did Barack think that he wanted me off the campaign trail. But for a minute, I thought about quitting. But the reason I share that story is because I want people to, especially young people, to know that we all go through those moments where people try to define us before we have an opportunity to define ourselves. And that's exactly what they were trying to do to me, what they tried to do to Barack, because power is a corrupting thing. And it will make people do some ugly stuff. And we got to see that up close and personal. But I learned from that, you know, so instead of letting it defeat me, I had a very clear vision of what I had to do when I went into the White House as First Lady. I knew that it was up to me, that I wouldn't get the benefit of the doubt. I wouldn't get the benefit of being treated as the gracious, honored First Lady. As I wrote, I would have to earn my grace.
You would have to earn
I
your
knew
grace.
that very clearly, and I knew that I would have to quickly define myself. And I want all young girls out there to know, because we all struggle with that. People of color, working class folks, women of color, where people work to try to define us in a negative way before we get out there and we get a chance to write our own stories. And it happened to, yes, me too, Michelle Obama.
Yes, Michelle Obama.
But it is our job to tell our own story. So I knew I had to come in rolling up my sleeves, ready to work. I had to prove that not only was I smart and strategic, but I was going to work harder and faster and better and stronger than any First Lady in history.
And you did.
And I had to do that.
You did. And you did. You know, that's why I thought it was interesting in the opening tape, the shot of you looking out there looking out as the helicopter's taking off. It's like I'm trying to figure out the expression on your face, Mrs. Obama, because you like swallow, and I don't know if you're going, bye Felicia, good riddance, or if you're going, I'm gonna miss you, or on to the next. What were you thinking in that moment? Because you write in the book that on the helicopter, you actually sobbed for 30 minutes.
Well, this Gayle's talking about the very last day after we had to sit through the other inaugurations. But I tell the story because that day was so crazy, because
you invited them over for tea.
Well, we did that, but there was also the mother moments, right? Because the truth is, on that day, I was moving my children out of the only house they had really grown up in, and I think that gets lost on people. I mean, Malia and Sasha were in 2nd and 5th grade. They spent all of their years in that White House. Yes, a very strange and crazy little house, but that was their home. So while you're transitioning out, the transition happens so quickly. It's like you don't even get to move your furniture out until the new president takes the oath of office. So all of that is happening in one day. And so my kids come and with their little friends and they're like, can we have a sleepover for the last night? And I was like, what? a sleepover? Well, yeah, so that 8 little girls crying the night before. And I'm like, okay, y'all, you can have a sleepover, but you got to get up and get out of this house in the morning. And so all of the White House is shut down because it's inauguration. So we get up the next morning. I'm trying to get my hair and makeup done because that's what we have to do. Barack puts on a suit and a tie. Maybe change the tie. He's like, what's taking you so long? I'm like, are you kidding me? So anyway, the girls didn't get up. And I'm dressed. I'm like, get up, you gotta get out of here. And they're all crying. They got their teddy bears and they're moving slow. And I'm just like, you gotta get out of this house. And I don't know where these kids are going, but they had to get up out of that house. So you got tears and I'm pushing people out the freight elevator and my kids are crying. I don't know where they were going. I mean, all of that was happening. And the staff is crying, tears are happening. And you have to go to the inauguration. Well, then we have to meet the Trumps. The Trumps show up, and I didn't want to go out in front of that first, and greet them with tears in my eyes because people would think I was crying for other reasons. So that day was very emotional, and then to sort of sit at that inauguration and to look around at a crowd that was not reflective of the country. It was just such the opposite of because during Barack's inauguration, we made sure that the crowd looked like all of America. Having the Tuskegee Airmen, having civil rights folks, having folks who had marched, and you could look out at his crowd and you would see America, all of it. And I had to sit in that audience, one of a handful of people of color, and then listen to that speech. And all that I had sort of held on to for 8 years, watching my husband get raked over the coals, feeling like we had to do everything perfectly. No scandal, no nothing. I think it was a lot emotionally. So by the time I got on that plane, it was a release. It was a release of 8 years of having to try to show up as we all know we have to do. We have to show up not only perfectly, but a little bit better than perfect to even be considered equal. And it was the exhaustion of 8 years of that.
I wonder if you look back on the 8 years, because I think history will write such a different, they will have a different take on how it's being portrayed in the news now. And I wonder what it's like for you to sit and watch everything that you and President Obama built seemingly being torn down or dismantled simply because the two of you did it. Not because there's a better alternative sometimes, but just because it was an idea of the Obama administration.
People ask me that question all the time, and I can honestly say that our upset isn't over our legacy. You know, we weren't there to instill our legacy. We were there to do a job on behalf of the country. Barack didn't pass health care because we needed health care. He passed health care because millions of Americans didn't have health care. You know, it was never about us. So what it saddens me is what it's doing to the country as a whole. So it's not enough, y'all, for me to be upset. It's like, don't be upset over our legacy. Me and Barack are cool. You know, what we have to be really conscientious of is what kind of country are we leaving for our children and our grandchildren? That's what turns my stomach at night. It has nothing to do with us. You know, because when you're the commander-in-chief of the leader and the leader of the free world, the job is not about you. You know, it's not about your feelings, your hurt feelings, your emotions. And that was something I was so proud of Barack. You know, we didn't make the White House about our emotional needs.
Yes.
So what is happening now isn't, you know, the question isn't how do I feel?
Yeah.
The question is how do we feel about it, and what are we gonna do about it?
That's right. So many people take it personally. It's interesting to me that you guys don't. Let's jump to meeting Barack Obama.
Meeting Barack Obama.
Because you know, he did not seemingly make a good impression on you the first meeting.
Well, he was late.
He was late. But did he have that walk back then? Because I'm thinking, if he had that walk, that would be something that would be impressive. Did he have that walk back then?
He had the walk, but let me tell you, the precursor to meeting Barack, because I was his advisor, so my job was to greet him on the first day of a law firm. But there was all this hype about him, you know, and it was like, you know, this is really smart black young man from Harvard, and you know, I was thinking this is a bunch of white people who think the brother is. So I was a little suspicious. I was like, let me be the judge.
He's articulate.
Right, it's like a brother can talk straight and people are like, oh, he's amazing.
No, I'm going home.
It's not an anomaly.
Well, and then I was, y'all ladies, I was kind of skeptical because I was picturing what a Barack Obama on paper would look like. So it's like Barack Obama.
Name too,
Barack Obama. You know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago with Robinsons and Smiths and Joneses. I didn't know no Barack Obamas. You know, I didn't know that there were black people in Hawaii. Yes, I was a little ignorant. So I had the impression of Barack Obama. Hi, I'm Barack Obama from Hawaii. So I thought I was gonna be meeting a nerd, an intellectual nerd, right? And then I talked to him on the phone, and he had that Barack Obama voice. He was like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, oh, hey. I really did. It was just like, maybe we could work with this. That voice didn't go with the picture of that little nerd I had in my head, you know? So I was like, okay. But then he was late, and I was like, trifling black man late.
On the first day.
On the first day, he was late. But no, he wasn't pressed about being late, right? He showed up late, and he had that walk like, oh, I'm so sorry I was late. You know? And I was like, all right, dude, you late on your first day, and you're not even rushing. He had that Hawaii slow walk, so he walked off. I kind of looked at him like, okay.
Well, lucky for us, it was okay that he was late, and he was driving a yellow Datsun with a hole in it. I'm thinking, God.
Now you know it was love, y'all, because I had a job and a saw.
You could see the hole in the ground.
And he had a car pick me up in it where you could literally see the sidewalk. I was like, is that the street? Is that the ground? He was like, yeah, baby.
And is it moving?
And we were moving, and the ground, it was a rust. He was like, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine.
And how long have you and Barack Obama been married now? How many years have you been married?
Ooh,
Michelle, you're supposed to know this right away.
It's a long time, y'all.
Know this right away.
It's like 26, 27 years. Okay, thank you, Gayle. He's good with the numbers and the dates. I am not.
But this is the thing. In the book, you also talk about marital counseling, which I think surprised a lot of people.
Yes.
Because most people don't want you to know that they've been to marital counseling.
Which is
Certainly
crazy
men
to
don't
me.
talk about.
I know men don't like to talk about nothing. Y'all need to talk a lot more. Get you some friends.
Okay.
Issues. But yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
absolutely. You know, my view is that it's like, what that little man come in here for?
Michelle's earring fell off.
I got it, y'all. Rescue the
I thought
earring.
something bad had happened.
I know, so did I. It was like earthquake. It's just the earring, y'all.
When you talked about marital counseling,
Well, yeah, because there are a lot of young couples who look up to me and Barack, right? It's like we're all hashtag relationship goals.
Yes.
And this is what we do. We don't tell the truth about the work of marriage. So young couples think that all they see of us is the fist bump and the love, and I'm looking adoringly at his speeches, and you know, they don't know I want to like kick him out the window every now and then, you know? But that is the truth of marriage. And my view is that we can't be up here as role models and not telling people the truth about life and relationships. Marriage is work. Marriage is hard. And let me
was he
tell
okay
you,
with you sharing that?
you know, like a man, he was sort of like, you sure you want to talk about this? And I was like, yes, get out of here. But no, he understands the importance as public figures. So yes, we definitely there were periods when our kids were little, because marriage is all nice and cute, and then you have kids, and they show up and they take up all the oxygen in the land. That's why they make the babies cute, because you would leave them at the post office. You would be like, here, I'm just done with it, you know? But that's when, for us, marriage gets stressful, because you talk about this equality thing going on until the babies come. It's like, I was still the one, you know, it's like he changes a diaper and everybody cheers.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's such a good husband. You know, while I'm still setting up day camp and daycare and the well child visits and the
Doctor's
dentist and the
appointments,
doctor's
yeah.
appointments, and babysitters, somebody gets sick, who has to take off work? Ooh, it's me.
So, you know, part of having a good marriage is being able to fight fair.
Yeah.
Fight fair and fight so that you don't disrespect each other.
Absolutely.
What was your strategy in terms if he got on your nerves or you got on his nerves? Did you all not talk? Did you all scream? Did you all... what did you do?
All
What did
of
you
the
do?
above, yes. Yes, we went through, those are the cycles of learning how to deal
Yes,
in your marriage,
that's
you know. But yeah, now we've learned how to argue with each other. You know, you learn what buttons not to push.
Not to push.
You know, you learn how far not to go. And you have to, this is what I say, and a lot of people say this, marriage is a choice. You know, it's a choice that you make every day, because you don't do it because it's easy. You do it because you believe in it, you believe in the other person. And ladies, gentlemen, that's why it's so important to marry somebody that you respect. You know, it's important to marry somebody who is your equal, and to marry somebody and to be with somebody who wants you to win as much as you want them to win. I was talking to a good friend of mine earlier today about thinking about marriage like we think about sports and like you picking your team, right? I mean, my husband is my teammate, and if we are gonna win this game together, he has to be strong and he has to be okay with me being strong. I do not want a weak player on my team, nor does he. But sometimes we accept weak in one another because it feels easy, you know? And be cautious of the man or woman who wants just the easy person.
Yeah.
The person who's not gonna force them to grow. The person who's not gonna expect them to change, who's not gonna hold them accountable. Because if you wanna be on a winning team, just like you pick somebody, you wouldn't pick somebody off the bench who's just gonna show up weak.
Yes,
You
yes.
wanna pick somebody who
Yes,
is going
preach.
to carry you through. And those are the things that get you over the hard times.
But Michelle, you said something interesting. You said marry someone who's your equal. You know, we're at a stage now where many women out earn men And I think that's very difficult for some men. And I've gotten to the place where I don't want to be a nurse or a purse. So when you say marry somebody,
I like that, Gayle.
nurse or a purse,
I like that.
so when you say, and I would like him to have his own teeth too. So when you say you're equal, what do you mean by that?
You know, and equality is not just measured in terms of the wallet. I'm not just talking about, oh, you gotta be this person or that person. Equality in terms of the values that they carry. You know, it's like honesty, you know? I mean, look, honesty for me is the beginning, the middle, and the end. I just wouldn't want to be bothered with somebody that I couldn't trust on a day-to-day basis. Because so I'm trustworthy, so I expect my partner to be trustworthy.
You said something to me years ago when you all first went on this journey. You said Barack Obama has never disappointed you in the things that matter.
Absolutely.
I've never ever forgotten that because I think that's such a good barometer.
And those are the things you fall back on.
Yes,
It's the basic
that
core
matter.
of who the person is. So it's not just about how much money they make or what their title is. We get lost in that kind of stuff. And we sometimes wind up with the wrong people because somebody can have the right title and the right salary and the wrong heart, the wrong soul, the wrong core.
I've met him.
Yes, it's like I know
So
that.
his name is George. But okay. Campaign 2020, you know, we're in the middle of a campaign. Many of the candidates were here today. They came one right after the other because Black women's vote is so crucial and so critical and can change the game. Thank you, Alabama.
Yes.
So the gazillion candidates that are running for the Democratic Party, has anybody caught your fancy, caught your eye? Has anybody said, hey, Michelle, shall we take a picture? Because if I was running, you would be one of the first people I call. Has anybody caught your eye or?
You know, one of the things, because Barack and I are going to support whoever wins the primary. So our primary focus is letting the primary process play out because it's very early. I mean, that's one of the things that we learned in the campaign. It is early. It's like trying to figure out who's going to win the World Series on the first 7 games. I mean, that's where we are right now. It is so early and things will change.
So you guys don't want to get into it? Because everybody at least thought, well, you know they're going to go for Biden, but you're saying you're going to wait until the primary.
Absolutely, because the general election is so important that we have to get behind whoever comes out of that primary. So we're watching everyone.
Yeah.
We're supportive of everyone. We are giving advice to whomever seeks it. But ultimately,
give advice to whoever seeks it.
Anybody who has called or wants to call, I am more than happy to
And your
talk
number
to.
is?
Yeah, right.
What, if anything, would you like to say about the Kamala Biden dust-up? He apologized today. You've been following that. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do not.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Moving on.
I've been doing this rodeo far too long.
Yeah, moving on.
It's like, and no comments.
Yeah, moving on. And no comment works, too. And no comment, by the way, is a complete sentence. What are the qualities that you think make a good president? You can say that.
Well, I talked about this in the last campaign, but nobody listened, you know? It's like, you know, it's a hard job, y'all. Let's just be clear, this isn't a joke, it's not a game. The leader of the free world with a tweet can start a war, can crush an economy, can change the future of our children. It is a real job which requires deep seriousness and focus. It's somebody who has to have an understanding of history so that you don't repeat what hasn't worked. Having facts is really important. Operating with a base of clear facts and ideas, that's important. Somebody who's careful with their words. Somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who is loyal and honest and decent.
And honest.
I mean, it's not a complicated set of principles, but I think some people treat politics like it is a game, and they treat the presidency like it doesn't matter because some people don't see how it affects their day-to-day lives. That's the only thing I can imagine when I see so many people who don't vote, who sit out. You must think at some level that it doesn't really affect you because you don't see it on a day-to-day basis. And as somebody who has watched, I think, one of the most productive and profound presidents of our lifetime, I have seen my husband operate up close. He reads everything. He knows more than everybody in the room because he has to. The job of the president isn't deciding between a bunch of good answers. It's not enough to just have a bunch of good advisors, because if you have 8 advisors, you're going to get 8 different opinions. And ultimately, the commander-in-chief has to have the knowledge to be able to choose between the 8. That means you have to read everything. You have to know everything. You have to know more than the people around you. But I fear that sometimes people might have thought that Barack made it look easy, so it must be easy. It's kind of like, I guess if the black guy can do it, anybody can do it. And that's not true. It's a hard job. So that means we have to be focused on who's actually ready to lead the nation. And then we have to be engaged.
And you have to be engaged, and you have to vote. You know, I also want to talk about wellness and health, because I know you've been paying a lot of attention to that. That was a big mission for you when you were in the White House. And for the first time in Essence, they have a wellness activation, the first time.
Excellent.
Called
Excellent.
the Wellness House.
Yeah.
And one of the activations, Michelle, is get fit, get checked, and get moving.
Yes.
A message that was so important to you. Why was it so important for you to because, you know, I look at you and they say you wanted to make us healthier, you wanted us to eat better, and you wanted us to exercise. You hussy telling us what to do.
I know.
Why was that so important to you?
Well, because food and diet and lifestyle is very personal, you know, and I think people, it's hard to break habits that have been developed over a lifetime. And one of the reasons I took that issue on is because I saw very early on that we are dealing with an obesity epidemic in our children that will shorten their lives. I mean, this is one of those, like, it's a fact. You know, our children are growing up less healthy than we are, which means that their life expectancy will be shorter than us. That is just a for real thing. So I started with kids because my hope was that sometimes as parents we can do for our kids what we just can't find, you know, in us to do for ourselves. And I know as a mother, when it comes to me trying to make sure that my kids have the best, I will kill somebody to make sure that my children have what they need. So starting with young people was a way to kind of ease into the conversation, but it's a challenge that we all face.
And look what you did with the lunch program. You said about the proper milk, which now the USDA has changed the rules. They can now drink flavored milk, chocolate and strawberry. It's okay to have refined grains. It's okay, they've changed the sodium levels. All the things you implemented that pediatricians and nutritionists said was working.
Right.
That's now been overturned.
Well, because food is a money industry. You know, that's just the bottom line. This is really about money. There are people who are advertising right now who don't care about your kids' health if their profit margins are good. So here's what we have to do is that we have to own our health. I mean, it's one of these things that no one can take from you. You know, no matter what your race, your socioeconomic background, your educational level, we all have the ability to own our health. But so many of us don't know how. We don't have the resources. We don't have grocery stores in our communities. We don't have access. You know, our kids aren't living in safe neighborhoods where they can play outside. So much in our lives have changed.
I've heard you say you almost became defiant about making sure that your health was good.
Well, for me, with health, it was one of those things, and a lot of mothers will understand this because I found myself looking around after I had my kids, and I didn't have time for me, but my husband was at the gym like every day, and I was like, well, how are you going to the gym? And he was like, I make time for the gym. I was like, what? You know? And this was right when we started going to counseling, y'all. So this was one of our issues, you know? But I found myself getting mad at him because he was doing what he needed to do for him. And I think for us as women, many of us, we have a hard time putting ourselves on our own priority list, let alone at the top of it. And that's what happens when it comes to our health as women. We are so busy giving and doing for others that we almost feel guilty to take that time out for ourselves.
But we're sort of trained that way.
Yes, we are trained that way, and we have to have a different set of conversations to untrain us. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but if we don't start having conversations about this as women, because forget what anyone says, we still control what happens in the household. So if we don't have our act together as women, as mothers, as grandmothers, we still aren't going to be able to get our kids on track. So we have to start having some conversations, number one, about why is it so hard for us as women to put ourselves first. I mean, we're living in a world where we as women, we are so devalued. We have trained ourselves to think we don't deserve it, that we don't even deserve to take care of ourselves. And we have to kind of search our minds and our histories and our backgrounds to find out where that hurt comes from. We know we see it out there in the culture because we don't see ourselves. You know, we see people imitating us, but not giving us credit for the beauty that we hold, you know. But we also, Gayle, have to figure out what is going on in us in our own communities. What is the conversation we are having with ourselves, with our own daughters? What, you know, and the fathers and the men out there, you all play an important role. Because let me tell you, my father and my brother had the greatest impact on my self-esteem, because I grew up in a household with men who loved me and respected me very early on, who told me how beautiful I was, who treated me as an equal. So even at an early age, because I had a father and a brother and the men in my life who didn't hurt me, who took care of me, the bar for what I expected for myself was set by the men in my life. And too many of us as women, we're walking around hurt and covered in scars, and that affects how we take care of ourselves, and then what message we send to our kids.
You know, Michelle, I think about your dad. After I read the part about your dad and your dad's death and the relationship that you had, I actually had to put the book down because I was so deeply affected by it. Your dad died at the age of 55 and you're 55.
Yes.
My mom died 10 days before her 61st birthday. And before I turned 61, I kept thinking, I hope I make it, I hope I make it.
Yeah.
Do you think about your dad dying at the age you are now and how that has affected you, if it has affected you? I was very struck by that.
You know, I think about my father every day. Yeah. You know, I mean, my dad was a blue-collar worker who didn't want much in life. He poured everything he had into me and my brother. And, you know, not a day goes by that me and my brother don't think about the fact that he didn't live long enough to see who he raised.
Yeah.
And I think that that's another reason why. Now, my father had MS, and he had a disease that was degenerative, and it's probably one of the reasons why I don't take my health for granted, because I saw a man. My father was an athlete. He boxed and he swam, and because of this disease, he died not being able to walk without the assistance of crutches.
Yeah.
So I knew he was a man who valued movement, and it was taken from him.
Yeah.
So at no point in my life do I take my health for granted. But when I think about how we have to think about what our loss, what our leaving this earth too early does to the ones, you know, who are counting on us to be there for them. You know, that's why health is so important to me, because we lose many people to things that they can't help. But when it happens because of stuff we have complete control over, the food we put in our bodies, how we move, you know, whether we go to the doctor on a regular basis, whether we're watching out for diabetes and asthma, whether we're doing things to prevent completely preventable illnesses, I start thinking about, my God, my father didn't get to meet those two beautiful girls. They didn't know the man that raised me. They didn't get a chance to really experience the values he gave to us, and I think what a loss. And I know right now in this audience, there are parents like mine out there, you know, whose kids need them healthy and whole, whose grandkids need them. And that's where we have to take charge of our health so that we're not gone too soon.
Your health and your wellness, and I'm curious, when it comes to health and wellness, how do you do this in an environment that seems so toxic, so hopeless? How do we maintain that and find our own North Star? How do we maintain health and wellness when all around us we see such toxicity and such negativity? How do we find the North Star within?
It's truly a one day at a time kind of proposition. You know, it's a hard question when they feel hopeless. But digging ourselves out of any kind of hole, anybody who's faced any kind of challenge in their lives, it's really a one day at a time kind of thing. At first we have to acknowledge what the problem is, what the hole is, what caused it. And which is, when it comes to health, it's one of the reasons why we have to kind of begin to talk to ourselves as a community and say to ourselves, first of all, do we acknowledge that there is a problem? Do we acknowledge that this is something that we need to work on?
No, I love that question. Furl was backstage and I was saying, if you had one question, what would it be? And of course he just rattled that off. I thought, that's good, I'm not going to credit you, but it was so good I had to give him credit for that. Let's talk about your daughters. When you were talking about your daughters didn't get to see their grandfather. Because I think in that tape, for a lot of people, that was the first time they heard Malia and Sasha speak.
Yeah.
You raised them to be so normal, so kind, such really generous spirits. And that doesn't happen, they don't get that way by themselves. What was your strategy going into the White House about how you were going to raise these two young girls?
You know, I credit my own upbringing. Me and Barack, we were regular folks up until he gave that speech at the convention. And it was like, all of a sudden he was shot out of a rocket and he had security. I was like, what? We were just on the south side of Chicago. But I credit my mother, Grandma, thank you. I love my mother. She was in the house with us, and anybody who's ever met Marion Robinson, she is not impressed with anything. She's still wondering why people show up and see me. She's like, well, why are all these people here? I'm like, Mom, I'm Michelle Obama. She's like, I don't get it.
Oh, she gets it. One of the best interviews I got to do with Michelle Obama and Marion Robinson. And when I asked Marion Robinson, what are you most proud of about your daughter? She said, I want to be Michelle Obama when I grow up. Can you imagine your mother saying that about you? That was such a lovely tribute. But your mother was instrumental in the house. She would take the kids to school every day. But we that work action.
Our focus was to make sure they just did what they were supposed to do. And that meant we had to pretend like all the craziness around them wasn't happening. You know, it's like, I always equate it to like when you have a toddler and they hit their head and they look up, they look to you to whether they should cry or not, and their reaction is based on yours. Well, that's what we did for 8 years. It was like, yep, your dad's president. That doesn't have anything to do with you. Just take your little butt to school. Yes, you have security. Just ignore them. You know, they're not here for you. They don't really care. They're really here because if you get shot, it'll mess up the country or something like that. You know, you have to keep telling them this isn't about you. Your goal is to go to school, come back, get some decent grades, and don't act up. Don't embarrass us, you know.
So your mom would ride with them to school?
When they were young, I wanted to make sure they always had, you know, a family member with them because they were kids who grew up with security. I mean, my kids had armed guards with them at all time. Imagine trying to have your first kiss with a bunch of men with armed guards, playing, having a sleepover. Imagine having Malia and Sasha come to your house for a sleepover. This is the call. It's like, hello, okay, we're gonna need your social security number. We're gonna need your date of birth. There are gonna be men coming to sweep your house. If you have guns and drugs, just tell them yes, because they're gonna find it anyway. Don't lie. They're not gonna take them. They just need to know where they are. And thank you for having Malia and Sasha over. Oh, by the way, there's going to be a man with a gun sitting outside of your door all night. Let him come in and use the bathroom. It would just be nice. I mean, I'm surprised my kids have any friends, you know? You have that happen once or twice. And
I wonder how they could determine who were their real friends and not their friends because they were Malia or Sasha.
You know,
did you talk to them about that?
Kids learn that, you know? They learn honesty, they know truth. It's like, that's why the kids, in my view, have to be out in the world. My kids needed to be out in the world. They had to test their own theories. It's like, this is one of the things, one of the hardest parts I try to tell young people of parenting is, now, whatever that is, I hope it's not gonna blow up right here before us now. You know my agents are losing their minds over this steaming little situation here.
Mary J's not coming out yet, we don't need the smoke. No, but now you're gonna be empty nesters.
We are gonna be empty nesters. My kids are gone. They are gone.
And you know what they say about empty nesters, that they rediscover each other? Kelly Ripa, I read something about Kelly Ripa recently that she said she's looking forward to running through the house buck naked. Is that what you and Barack will be doing?
Gayle, that's none of your business. That is none of your business. But this is what I'm saying about marriage. It's like the kids are gone and Barack's like, you seem so much less stressed. And I was like, duh. You know, so not only were we parenting teenagers, but we were parenting teenagers where every Saturday night you had to worry about whether your kid was gonna wind up on page 6. I mean, it's stressful. So now on the other end of it, we're like, oh, it's you again. We are rediscovering each other.
You're
I'm
still
like,
cute.
Exactly. I feel like I'm looking over at him going, hey, you. There you are. Where have you been for 21 years? But that's
Would you say you're closer now than you've ever been?
Barack and I, yes. I mean, this is the beauty of finding a partner that you really love and respect. Because after all the highs and lows, the ups and downs we've been through, we have each other, which makes the journey worth it. And that's the thing, that's the investment, y'all, in relationships and marriage, is that in the end, if you can get through those,
Thank you.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you.
Praise me. Way to go. What's your name? Way to go. Way to stop the smoke.
Yes.
We're all fine. Whew. See me, I was trying to play it off.
I know.
That I was like, and I'm thinking, should we run? Should we run? Whew.
No, but the importance of finding somebody.
That's what you call a poker face. But yes, we are reconnecting, but the journey of marriage for all you young people who are in love and getting through the humps, and for all you couples that are at that point where you want to choke each other, you know, just remember, and people, you know, you want to choke each other every now and then. It's okay.
Yeah, like just looking at you makes me mad.
Just hearing your voice makes me mad. Just you breathing, getting on my nerves. Just like, why do you breathe like that? When breathing and chewing starts messing with you, you know you're in that phase. It's like, you don't even like the way they chew. It's like, why did I never notice he chewed like that? So you go through those phases, but if you can hang in there through the chewing times, the bad chewing times, you get to the point where you look out over the dark clouds and you see your baby over there and you're like, oh, I remember you. That's where me and Barack are right now. I'm like, I see you, boo. I see you.
Can you imagine how many people are going to bed? We're having a bad chewing time right now.
We're in the chewing time.
But because Essence has so many different panels, I just want to hit on a couple of the panels, and I want you to respond to the genesis of the panels, or what the panels mean. I want to wrap it up this way. We have less than 3 minutes. It says, toxic relationships, know when to go. What's your deal breaker in a relationship? What is the message you tell your daughters?
Ooh, there's so many. How do I, you know, it's what I said earlier. They got to share your values, you know, and values of honesty, truth, hard work, accountability. You know, I don't care how cute he is, how much money he makes. If you all don't share those principles, it's going to be hard to make it work.
Before I let go dance party. Anything you feel you need to let go, there's a before I let go dance party activation. Anything you feel you need to let go.
You know, resentment it's a toxic emotion, and I've learned over the course of my life not to hold on to too much resentment and anger. You know, it goes. Everybody says this. Forgiveness is real.
Yes.
Forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person.
They have one called Tales of Young Trailblazers. Your message to young women to succeed personally and professionally. Tales of Young Trailblazers is one of the panels.
Learn balance. You know, the whole, what I don't understand is this, how we got to think that you're supposed to have it all at the same time. I mean, that's a false set of principles. None of us gets to have it all, nor should we. We don't even raise our kids to think that they should have it all. That's called selfish, is what, that's called not sharing, right? You never get to have it all, but what you remember is that life is a journey, and through it all, finding balance, you know, because without balance, you will never find happiness. So if you're not in a career, if you're a career that makes a lot of money, but it's not something you love, you're out of balance. If you're working too hard and you never find time for love or for self-care, you won't be happy because you won't find balance, you know? So finding balance and finding balance is a practice, because oftentimes as young people, we practice imbalance. We work too late, we party too hard, we do everything too much. That's practicing being out of balance. And when you grow up and you're a grown person, you learn how to do a little bit of it all, but you don't get to have it all at once.
Great sex at every age. Care to share?
Yes. I support that. I mean, come on, Gayle. Yes.
It's one of the panels.
What are you supposed to say to that?
I agree.
No, I take issue with great sex at every age. No.
I didn't know if you had some personal stories you wanted to share. Okay.
Yes, Gayle.
Okay.
The answer is yes.
Clap back. Your best clap back.
My best clap
Clap
back.
back. When somebody says something that just really pisses you off, your
good.
best clap back.
I don't know. You should have asked me these before. I have to think of my best. Can you think of my best clap back? I have many of them.
Do you still believe when we go low, when they go low, we go high?
Yeah, thank you, y'all.
Is that still true?
It has to be true. I mean, well, you know, look, that's the one thing people ask me about in this climate. You know, how do you find it in yourself to go high? And here's the thing: going high is a long-term strategy. You know, because the truth is that going high is about thinking about trying to really get to the real answer. Because a lot of times the low answer is just our immediate instinct. It's just, I'm mad and I just want to punch you in the face. But it doesn't solve anything. And that was something I learned from Barack, because a lot of people just wanted Barack to get up on the podium and just go off, right?
Yes.
And his view was always, okay, I could go off today and feel better in the moment, but does it move the agenda? And if we're all thinking about what the agenda is, which is getting to a place where we live in a country that we're proud to pass on to our kids, going high is the only way we get there. It's our patience, it's our tolerance, it's our belief in honesty and truth, it's our belief in hard work. It's not about getting somebody back. It's not about the immediate clap back. The immediate clap back is just for your own selfish purpose right there in the moment, and rarely does it solve anything. So I think, yes, we have to be a people that keeps going high. Now, going high doesn't mean you don't acknowledge the pain. That doesn't mean you ignore the pain, you know? That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with feeling the pain, but how do you react to it? You know, do you react by just giving pain back? But we have to think about where is it that we're trying to go in the long term.
Last question. You appear to be living your best life, are you? We sure hope you are you?
You know what? The Obama family are fine because we have our health, we have each other. You know, we do have, you know, a sense of feeling like we did the best job we could in the White House for the country. And we sleep well at night, for sure. Our goal and hope is that, you know, it has never been enough for me and Barack for us to be okay. You know, it doesn't feel good living in a world where your brothers and sisters aren't doing as well as you are. And that's the work that we have to continue to do. You know, there's still far too much inequality. We look out at, you know, where we're going as a country. Many of us don't feel we're headed in the right direction because we know we can be doing better. And until we as a nation, we as a people are, Barack and I aren't living our best life until we're all living our best lives. But in order for us to do that, we got to be engaged. And as Reverend Sharpton said before we came on stage, the power we have as Black folks, particularly as Black women, the power of our voice and our story and our narrative, you know, we underestimate it because they want us to underestimate it. You know, but I'm here to tell you, there is nothing we can't do or change when we as a collective put our minds to it. You know, and I feel that when I'm out there. We're the ones we've been waiting for. But that means we gotta roll up our sleeves and do the work and do it every single time. We've got to vote. We've got to vote in every election. We have to be informed and engaged and aware. We got to know who our school board president is, who our mayor is, who our governor is. It's not just voting for president every 4 years and then sitting back and waiting for things to be better. You know, we have to treat each other better every day. And as women, we got to take the lead in that regard. And we can do it, y'all. I mean, I feel the power in the Superdome right here. I feel it. I feel it right now. If each of us does our part and we go out there and we get educated and we register and we get people registered to vote, we can change things. So I know I'm gonna be out there working. I just hope that all of you all will join me, join us to make sure that in the future we're going where we need to go.
You know, you ended the intro tape where you said, I'll be supporting and rooting for you for the rest of my life. You were talking to a group of people. I speak for everyone in the Superdome when I say we feel the same about you, rooting and supporting you for the rest of our life.